Yes, so guys, I was going to mention we are going to record this so we can post it up. And again, for those who weren't able to make it today, can view it at a later date. So this seminar or webinar will be recorded. As well, like I mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, you can feel free to throw those towards Johnny and Trevor. They're part of the leisure centers as well, so they'll do their best to answer any questions you have along the way. And again, towards the end, I will have a little Q&A section, so you guys can throw some questions at me regarding any sort of topics or any subjects that we've covered along the way throughout the webinar as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and record as well, guys, and we can begin. So what we're going to be covering today is, we've got a few more. Excellent. Okay, awesome. Just checking the participants now. Welcome to those who have just joined us. I hope everyone is well. I can see we've got a couple new names in the participants section here. So welcome to those who have just joined. Let me just quickly briefly go over what I've just mentioned. This meeting or webinar will be recorded for future purposes, so can be watched at a later date. On top of that, if you have any questions, excellent. If you have any questions, you can throw those towards Johnny and Trevor along the way. And again, any questions you might have for myself, you can save those towards the end. Okay, so what we will be covering today, everyone, is how exercise and nutrition can benefit mental health. So as we know, our mental health is a large and important component of our overall health. Okay, and that ties in very closely along with how we eat, how we exercise, and as well how we sleep. So they are what are known as the 4 pillars of health, which we will be talking about a little bit later. So we know there is a large strain these days placed on our mental health, and I'm sure we've all experienced it now during a lockdown and this whole pandemic. It can be a very stressful period, and our mental health plays a very important role in our lives. Okay, and exercise and nutrition, in fact, are 2 very important factors that can influence your mental health. So exercise, as we know, is great for our physical health, but again, it plays an even better role for our mental health, along with nutrition. Eating well, eating highly nutritious foods, having a good, well-balanced diet can provide many nutrients that can support mental health and well-being. So we'll be diving into those topics today and how the 2, so particularly exercise and nutrition, how they can come together to benefit your overall mental health. All righty, so topics that we will be covering are: what is mental health? What can affect it? How can we improve it? Like I mentioned earlier, we will be covering the 4 pillars of health. Okay, so how all of them relate and intertwine with one another, that can, again, relate within one another and how they can benefit each other. We will talk about our happy chemicals, so various chemicals and neurotransmitters within the brain and how we can hack those to improve, different feelings, different senses and sensations. On top of that, the benefits of exercise and benefits of good nutrition, so what they provide towards mental health. We will cover some nutrients, so specific nutrients, where we can find those that can actually benefit mental health as well. And lastly, we will look at creating habits, so how we can create habits to form good behaviors. And again, we will look at certain strategies that we can put in place to lead to creating these habits as well. So I thought a little quote here would be appropriate, and it fits this scenario quite well. But we have a quote saying, if we could give every individual the right amount of nourishment and exercise, not too little and not too much, we would have found the safest way to health. Now, this was quoted by Hippocrates 400 BC, and I think this fits the bill perfectly. Okay, so something as simple as having a good exercise regime and eating well, having a nice, well-balanced diet, okay? Not too much of anything, not too little of anything. So having an exercise and diet well-balanced as part of a healthy and holistic lifestyle, that will be the safest way to health, okay? In this day and age, it's very prevalent, a lot of lifestyle diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, and like we're mentioning today, mental health. Okay, when something as simple as exercising, creating a good habit and a good routine with that, tying that in with good nutrition, eating well, and more importantly, enjoying the 2 of them, making them part of your lifestyle, enjoying them, not making them feel like a chore, that would be the safest way to health. Okay, so I thought that quote was very fitting for this scenario. So what is mental health? Well, mental health is defined as a person's condition with regard to their psychological, emotional, and social well-being. So there are three main components or factors that relate to mental health. So our psychological, how we think, what our perception is of the environment or scenarios around us, okay? How we process information, okay? Are we overthinking things? Are we not thinking enough, okay? So our psychological component is a large factor towards mental health. Next up is emotional, how we feel, how we respond, okay? What are our feelings towards certain, things within our lives, okay? Again, certain scenarios, how we feel towards things. Lastly, social, okay? How we communicate with other people. How do we interact, okay? Are we socially isolated? Are we socially accepted? Do we feel a sense of, intimidation in a social environment and that sort of stuff as well? So those three come together. Again, one can't be lacking. We should have all three. All three should kind of mesh with one another to provide an overall sense of mental health, okay? If one is severely lacking, for example, social, okay? If you're finding that, for example, you have a sense of social isolation, you feel like you're socially not accepted, okay, that can affect your emotional well-being. You might feel betrayed, you might feel depressed, and that can lead to your psychological health. You might overthink it. Well, why don't people like me? Why don't people accept me? So it can have kind of like a domino effect. So what can affect our mental health? Now, I've broken this up into two categories. Firstly, common factors. So some common factors that majority of people will experience at some stage in their lives that can have an impact on their mental health. So the first one, like I've mentioned, is social isolation or loneliness. So not having a sense of acceptance in a social setting, okay? Secondly is trauma or abuse. Now this can be present or in the past. Maybe, you might have childhood trauma or abuse, or maybe something a little bit more recent that could have severely affected you psychologically, okay? Could be anything. The death of a loved one, maybe physical abuse, through childhood or adulthood, anything like that can kind of tie into that. Maybe having no clear goals or objectives to work towards, okay? So not having a sense of purpose in life, not having a feeling that you're working towards or accomplishing things, okay? Maybe other people, your friends, your family, or people that might be, moving up in life, getting certain job roles, making more money, going on holidays, all these sorts of things, and you might feel you're not catching up to them, or you're not on the same level of them, okay? The next one, probably we've all experienced this at one stage, high amount of stress due to occupation, finance, or relationship, okay? So this is probably the most common one, okay? A lot of stress in this day and age. It's a very fast-paced lifestyle, okay? Thanks to inflation, everything's costing more. We need to make more money. Okay, so a sense of finance, needing to make more money, not making enough, to cover certain costs. Occupation, workloads increase, demands increase as well. And lastly, relationship, having relationship issues. This can obviously pile on the stress. So if you imagine all three, okay, at once, that stress can start to get quite high, okay? And lastly, body image. So this is a very common one, particularly in today's day and age with social media, that can have a large influence and a kind of false perception of what is an accepted body image, okay, for both males and females. So that's a common one as well. Common symptoms that can arise from these factors. First one is anxiety, okay? So again, requiring, having high amounts of stress due to work, having high work demands, requiring large amounts of money to fund certain things in life, okay, can cause anxiety. You can be excessively stressed and you can be anxious. Depression, that's another common one. Maybe feeling socially isolated, due to trauma or abuse. You could suffer from depression. Insomnia is another common one. Okay, struggling to sleep. Maybe you're excessively stressed, anxious. That can tie in and lead to possible insomnia, struggling to sleep, which is one of our 4 pillars of health. Paranoia, again, could be largely due to stress or trauma or abuse. Okay, you're paranoid that certain events or scenarios could repeat themselves. Okay, you're paranoid to avoid these sorts of scenarios. And lastly, eating disorders, again, largely contributed by body image. Okay, people again might have a false perception of what is a socially accepted body type or image, and that can lead to particular eating disorders. Okay, which is again things like anorexia, bulimia, okay, bigorexia for males as well. Okay, and it can lead to various eating disorders and bad eating habits. So how can we improve our mental health? So I've broken it down into 5 categories of how we can improve it. The first one, try to recognize what is triggering the symptoms. Okay, so I spoke about social isolation, particular traumatic event in our lives. Okay, maybe a false perception of body image. Okay, high amounts of stress due to work or family or relationships. If you can kind of pinpoint what is causing your anxiety, your depression, your insomnia. I know it is quite tricky. It's easier said than done. But if you can have a sense of what is kind of fueling that fire, if you will, okay, that'll obviously help to determine the strategies and the procedures you will take against that. Okay. Next up, create habits to form good behaviors. All right. So we will go into a little bit more depth regarding habits later on. But habits are things that we do, tasks throughout the day that we don't even think about. They're second nature to us. So if we can create new habits, this will help us to form good behaviors. As an example, for false perception of body image, you might have poor eating habits. If you can create good eating habits in the long run, that will form good eating behaviors. Okay, you have a good sense of how you should be eating to fuel your health. Thirdly, find an outlet to express yourself. So this is probably the most important one. Obviously, exercise being one of the best forms of stress relief. And again, we'll talk about how that works, how we relieve stress through exercise. Maybe find a hobby, something like painting. Okay, and painting, you can express yourself, okay, whether you're sad or happy or angry. So find a particular hobby that you can express your emotions. That's a great strategy as well. And lastly, a psychologist. So nice, simple, outlet where you can speak to a professional who understands the mechanics and the mechanisms behind why we feel certain things and why we act in certain ways. So a psychologist will be a great person to interact with. Developing clear goals to work towards. So for someone who, has a sense of depression and not like they're fulfilling their potential in life, creating certain goals to work towards can help you achieve these tasks. And once you achieve a task, you can get a good release of what's called dopamine, okay, your reward hormone or chemical, which we'll speak about a little bit about later as well. And lastly, I've mentioned this a couple of times already, understanding the 4 pillars of health and how they interact with one another. So that's what we'll dive into next. So the 4 pillars of health, okay? So the 4 main components that contribute to our overall health and sense of well-being. So obviously we have exercise, we have diet, we have sleep, and we have our mental health. Now they all interact with one another, and that's the most important takeaway point here, is they have to interact with one another. If one is severely lacking, it will affect the others. Okay, great example. If you're lacking sleep, if you're tired, if you don't have a good sleep schedule, are you more likely to exercise? Probably not, because you're going to be tired. You're going to be physically and mentally drained. Your mental side, your mental health will be affected. Okay, your cognition, your sense of perception, your information processing is all going to be lacking. Okay, certain hormones that need to be produced are going to be lacking as well. And your diet, you're probably less likely or inclined to prepare good, nutritious, healthy meals. You want something quick and on the run, and you probably grab some takeout because you can't be bothered cooking because you're a bit tired. Okay, and that's normal. But you can see how sleep can easily affect the others. Again, if we talk about diet, a diet lacking in specific nutrients to give us energy, okay, good quality energy, that will affect our exercise. You won't have good quality energy to fuel our workouts. A diet lacking in specific nutrients, which we'll talk about later, won't promote good mental health. It won't fuel your brain. It won't help the release of certain hormones and neurotransmitters that can benefit our brain and mental health. And again, a poor diet can affect your sleep quality and sleeping patterns. Okay, so you can start to see how lacking in one particular area can severely affect one or more of the other pillars of health. So again, this would be probably my main takeaway from today, the 4 pillars of health, understanding that these are the 4 main components that contribute to your overall well-being. Okay, so it's not just about exercising, it's not just about eating well, it's about putting them all together as the bigger picture, in a sense. So our happy chemicals. So again, I mentioned this regarding exercise and nutrition. So these are all what are known as neurotransmitters. So these are kind of the electrical impulses within your brain. And again, they give different senses and different signals, and they give you a different feeling and sensation. So the first one is called dopamine. So dopamine is also known as your happy hormone or your reward chemical. So this is largely hacked by completing a task or achieving goals. So like I mentioned earlier, if you can develop habits, form good behaviors, you can create clear goals to work towards. And if you can accomplish those goals, you'll have a little dopamine boost. You'll feel a sense of accomplishment. You feel great about yourself. So that's why if you can create various goals, whatever they may be, whether it's losing weight, getting fitter, or maybe trying to accomplish something regarding work or your occupation, if you can break a larger goal up into smaller, more frequently achievable goals, you'll be hacking that dopamine hormone a lot more frequently. Okay, so for example, instead of someone trying to lose 10 kilos and they're just looking at that end goal of 10 kilos, they could say, hey, I want to lose 500 grams a week. Okay, and if they can consistently hit that target week to week, okay, they're going to have a dopamine hack every week instead of 15 or 20 weeks down the track having one big hit. Okay, the next one is serotonin. So this is known as your mood stabilizer. Okay, so this has a nice calming, reassuring, satisfying effect on us. So serotonin, this is important. It's the most sensitive to diet. So good quality nutrition, okay, plenty of fruits, vegetables, good quality carbohydrates, okay, will help to release bigger spurts of serotonin. Okay, so again, this is the most sensitive to diet. Serotonin is largely influenced by the small intestine. So the small intestine is where nutrients get absorbed into the blood. So if you're eating highly nutritious foods, more nutrients will be released into the bloodstream, better quality nutrients, therefore a higher serotonin spike. Okay, so serotonin again can be influenced by calming or relaxing activities, things like yoga, meditation, leisure activities, going for a brisk walk, a light cycle, maybe spending some time in the sun as well. It's very relaxing. So that can help improve serotonin. Next up, we have oxytocin. So if anyone that's watched Married at First Sight, the experts speak a lot about this one because it's the love hormone. Okay, so oxytocin is probably one of the easiest ones to hack. Okay, simply by showing or receiving affection from a friend or family member, even a pet, something as simple as patting a dog. Okay, I'm sure we've all experienced that. When you pat a dog, you feel great. Okay, you see the dog's enjoying it. You're giving them pleasure as well, and that's kind of bouncing off one another. Okay, so showing or receiving affection. On top of that, receiving a compliment. Okay, again, if we've ever received a compliment, you get that, little feeling in your stomach and you feel great. You feel awesome about yourself. Okay, it could be something as simple as, oh, you look like you've lost weight, or you smell really nice. Okay, it can be a nice little confidence booster. The last one, this is our one mainly related to exercise. So endorphins. Endorphins are our body's natural painkiller. So they help to relieve stress. Okay, if we've ever had any of us have ever experienced the feeling after a really intense workout, you feel amazing. Okay, you might go into that workout with the weight of the world on your shoulders. Your brain's just nonstop. You're stressing about work tasks or family issues. You have a great workout. You come out of the workout thinking, what was I even stressed about? Okay, and that's thanks to endorphins. So if you're ever highly stressed, exercise is the best remedy because you'll come out of that workout feeling 100 times better. And that's thanks to our endorphins. Okay, so again, those 4, important to keep in mind how we can hack them as well. So the benefits of exercise, okay, so how they can relate to mental health. So the first one, exercise can help us create goals to work towards, okay, whether we want to get fitter, stronger, lose weight. We can create more frequent goals and help us improve the secretion of dopamine, which is the middle point there. So increased secretion of dopamine. Okay, if we can achieve these tasks, we will have a good sense of reward. The next one, sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. If you complete a very challenging and tough workout, you feel satisfied, you feel like you accomplished something. Next up, increased blood flow to brain. So this is another really important point. On the following slide, I'll have a little diagram of how exercise improves blood flow to the brain. And in doing so, it can improve cognition, memory, all of these good things as well. And again, if that blood is carrying nutrients, you get a higher supply of good quality nutrients to the brain. Next, we have improved hormone regulation. So our brain is the command center. It controls the secretion and release of certain hormones. So again, if you exercise well, you have better blood flow to the brain can work more efficiently. Because you're exercising, you're going to tire yourself out. So you're going to have improved sleeping quality as well as sleeping patterns. So if you can create a good exercise routine on your own or with the help of a personal trainer, and you can obviously hit up the leisure centers, Fairfield Leisure Centres for that. If you need assistance with, creating a training schedule or getting started on your fitness or health journey, that's always an option for you as well. But if you can create a good exercise schedule, that can obviously tie into creating a good sleeping schedule. Okay, and you'll start to be a master of scheduling. I've already spoken about it, but increased neurotransmitter activity in the brain. So again, increasing that dopamine production, serotonin, all of those happy chemicals. Stress relief, and this ties into the last point as well, that endorphin rush. So again, exercise is a fantastic form, probably the best form of stress relief. I find that there is nothing better. Okay, if you're ever stressed, if you've ever got a lot on your mind, something as simple as creating a circuit, going on a run, doing some boxing, great form of stress relief. So this is the diagram I was talking about. So there was a study done in the University of Illinois where they had certain students trying to memorize particular topics and particular algorithms and trying to get them to memorize those. So as you can see on the left, after sitting quietly, minimal blood supply to the brain. Okay, so this is an infrared image, very cold. There's practically no red, a little bit of yellow. So there's not much heat going on within their brain. Then the study got them to get up and walk for 20 minutes. They got them to sit down and try to re-memorize or trying to, again, show what they have memorized from the prior task. And as you can see on the right, there's bits of red and orange, a lot more darker colors, signaling or identifying that there has been a larger supply of blood to the brain. Okay, so and that's just after a 20-minute walk. So something as brisk as a 20-minute walk can really help to promote better blood flow to the brain. So if you ever have a task like studying where you need to memorize certain topics, a lot of research shows that studying should be broken up into smaller, more frequent blocks than one large period. Okay, because after about 30 to 45 minutes, our brain stops memorizing things. There's only so much information that we can hold in one go. So I'm not sure how you guys are going, tracking what I've mentioned so far, but every half an hour, 45 minutes, you should be getting up, going for about a 10, 15, maybe 20-minute walk or doing some sort of activities to stimulate that blood flow, because it helps with cognition, it helps with memory as well. So the benefits of good nutrition, better focus and cognition. So good quality nutrients can supply, again, better quality activity in the brain regarding neurotransmitters. You can focus better, you have better memory, better information processing. You can create good habits that lead to good behaviors. So this can help you create a good routine. So if you can create a good eating plan or eating habits that suit you and your lifestyle, you have a higher tendency to create a better exercise schedule as well as sleeping patterns. Okay, so these three routines kind of, again, intertwine with one another. You obviously have better energy levels, better mental clarity, better mental energy, as well as physical energy. So you'll be able to perform more efficiently in your workouts. Obviously, they provide specific nutrients good for mood, which we'll talk about on the next slide. Okay, so certain nutrients can help with your mood and help you feel better about yourself, help you feel good and have a more positive mindset. Like I mentioned earlier, increased serotonin production. So that calming, that sense of calming, it's the calming neurotransmitter. Okay. And again, most sensitive to diet. So having good quality nutrients, a lot of fruits and vegetables, good quality carbohydrates, that can help improve serotonin production. And lastly, you have an increased sense of self-esteem. So you'll feel better about yourself. You have a more positive outlook. Okay. Because you're eating good, you're going to feel good. Okay. I always use the term, treat your body like a Ferrari. You would always put the best quality petrol in a Ferrari. You wouldn't put the cheapest quality petrol, and you shouldn't treat your body any less different. So you should always be looking to put the best quality fuel into your body. So specific nutrients that can benefit mental health. The first one is tyrosine. So tyrosine is an amino acid, and it's largely attributed to improving your mood. So tyrosine can help regulate your thyroid, which is the gland that regulates your metabolism. Okay, and if your metabolism is working well, you're going to be breaking down and releasing nutrients a lot more efficiently. Okay, so tyrosine is also known as mood food. Okay, so that's its slang term. So very good at improving mood. The next one is taurine. So if anyone's ever had Red Bull before and you get a great brain spike and you've stimulated your brain, that can be largely due to taurine. So taurine is another amino acid. It increases cognition. So it's really good for mental focus, information processing. Okay, so taurine's an awesome one. The next one is your omega-3 fatty acids, so your fish oils. So again, it's an essential fatty acid, so we need to consume it from our diet. We don't produce it on our own. Okay, so we need to eat fatty sources of fish in particular. They can supply the best forms or the highest amounts of omega-3s. A fish oil supplement can help get good quality or quantities in. And this is largely attributed to brain health. So brain development, brain health, as well as joint and heart health as well, but particularly helps to develop the brain. Next up is caffeine. So I'm sure we've all had caffeine at one point or another, but caffeine stimulates our brain. So caffeine is also a drug. And what caffeine does, it minimizes adenosine production in the brain. So adenosine gets released throughout the day, and that's that sense or feeling of getting tired. So the higher the amounts of adenosine in the brain, the more tired we feel. Caffeine suppresses that. Less adenosine gets produced, so you feel more awake, more alert, more stimulated mentally. All right, so someone with anxiety maybe wouldn't be a great option to go caffeine, or someone with insomnia, okay? But just know that caffeine as well is a great simple option. Next up are B vitamins. So B vitamins essentially unlock the energy from our food. Okay, and B vitamins can be found in a lot of whole grain products. Okay, so your good quality carbohydrates will be high in B vitamins. So B vitamins are great for producing energy as well as brain function. Okay, so helping our brain work and process information. Lastly is folic acid. So folic acid is a supplement or a nutrient. It's also known as B9. But this is really important during pregnancy because it helps with the fetus development of the fetus. Okay, so it's very good to develop and improve blood flow to the fetus as well as blood flow to the brain. So folic acid encourages blood flow to the brain. Excellent. So they are some specific nutrients that can benefit mental health. A lot of these can be found simply in fruits and vegetables, things like omega-3 fatty acids, fish oil supplements, okay, caffeine obviously from coffee, certain supplements as well, tyrosine and taurine, as well as folic acid and B vitamins. Again, there are plenty of supplements out there where you can specifically take these nutrients, okay? So moving on. So creating habits. So I mentioned earlier, creating habits are things in our day-to-day nature that we don't even think about. Okay, and if we can form some new habits, that can lead to long-term good behaviors. So a habit is defined as a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. Okay, now creating habits takes time, and there's something known as the 21-90 rule. So what that means is it takes 21 days to form a habit, or 3 weeks. It takes 90 days to make that habit permanent, okay, or 3 months. And a great example of this is New Year's resolutions. Okay, every time New Year's comes around, I'm sure there's one person that we know that says, I'm starting a diet, I'm losing all this weight, okay, and they don't really have a plan in place. And when January 1st comes around, they go from doing no exercise at all to 6 or 7 days a week. How long does that last? A week, if that, okay, because they haven't created those habits yet. Okay, it takes 3 weeks to create a habit. Again, a further 3 months, so 3 months in total to make that permanent. So something to keep in mind. So habits take time. It's something you have to do day in, day out before it becomes second nature. Habits encourage good behaviors. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier with the eating one, if you can start to plan meals, okay, if you can start to plan an exercise schedule and you chip away at it and you do it day in, day out, that's going to encourage good long-term behaviors and help you create a healthy lifestyle incorporating those 4 pillars of health. Creating habits, like I mentioned, helps create routine. If you have a good exercise routine, a good eating or diet routine, and a good sleeping routine, those 3 again coming together to form one whole bubble, you'll have a great, good behavior. Okay, you have good day-to-day behaviors. Creating habits can, like I mentioned, determine effective goal setting. So if you can create smaller, more frequent goals, and that ties into the last point, provide objectives to work towards, you can hack that dopamine hormone a lot more frequently, a lot more often, and you'll have that sense of reward, sense of accomplishment and satisfaction a lot more frequently too. So some strategies to help you form these habits, just some simple ones. Number 1, pack your gym bag the night before. Okay, if you pack your gym bag, whether you're going to work or whatever you're doing the next day, if you have that ready to go, you grab it on your way out. So even if you're in a rush, there is no excuse. If you have that gym bag in the back of your car, on your lunch break or on the drive home from work, or even if you leave early in the morning for work, there's no excuse. Okay, you've got it there ready to go. Even if you get half an hour in a day, something is better than nothing. Okay, starting small is better than not starting at all. Okay, because if you start small, you can gradually build that up. Even if you start small and you create little habits day to day, that will build up over time. Okay, preparing your meals in advance. Okay, so if you can get into the habit of cooking, preparing your own meals, you know exactly what's going into them. You can control the nutrients. You can control everything to suit your lifestyle and your dietary needs. If you can prep those again in the morning, they're in the fridge, you grab them, put in your bag, off you go. You're less likely to buy takeout. Okay, and again, these nutrients will fuel good mental health. The third one, exercise with a partner or in a group. Okay, there's a lot of research and studies that show exercising in a group setting improves adherence. So your ability to stick to a workout program or schedule is greatly improved if you're exercising with someone or a multiple amount of people. Okay, because again, it can improve motivation. You have a sense, you guys can feed off one another, so you can motivate each other, you bounce your energy off one another, and you're more inclined to stick to it because you want to help your friend or family member or a member in the group out as well. Okay, so exercising with a partner or in a group, again, you don't feel like you're going it alone. You have someone else you can rely on as well. Number 4, get friends or family on your side. Okay, the hardest thing to do is trying to create a good, healthy eating plan, and then your mum or your brother or your dad brings home McDonald's. Okay, and that completely throws it off track. Okay, I'm not saying not to eat that stuff. Okay, it's good to have balance in your diet and enjoy certain foods at certain times. But there's nothing worse when you're trying to stick on track to something and someone comes in and mucks that all up, or whether it might be an exercise program as well. So if you can get them on your side and you're all working towards the same goal, that kind of ties in with exercising with a partner or in a group. You're all collaborating on that one goal and you guys can feed off your own energy. You can bounce it off one another. Lastly, like I mentioned earlier, find a hobby that you enjoy. If you can find something that you enjoy doing, if you can, find a way to enjoy exercise. Okay, for most people, going for a run or lifting some weights might be a bit boring, but maybe you can play a sport. Maybe you can get, again, your kids or your siblings or your parents involved, or some friends, and make it something you all can collaborate towards and enjoy. You're a lot more likely to stick to it if you enjoy it. And lastly, we'll just go through a summary, just to sum up a lot of the points that we've covered, or the key points. So number one, all 4 areas of the pillars of health should be met. So like I mentioned, if there's one takeaway from today, it's those 4 pillars of health. Number 2, develop habits that can lead to good behaviors. So try to develop those habits. Remember the 21-90 rule. That can lead to good behaviors and help you create a good routine. Try to recognize what is causing the symptoms. If you can pinpoint what is leading to your nervousness or anxiousness, your insomnia, maybe you can target a strategy, develop habits that can counter that. Exercise and nutrition, hopefully you guys know now, does play a large role in mental health. Okay, a tremendous role. Combined with sleep, that'll give you your 4 pillars of health. If you're giving enough attention to each one, you should have a great overall sense of well-being. And lastly, don't focus on being perfect, focus on the process. So that's one of the most common mistakes I see. People focus on the end goal, but they don't focus on the journey or the process within that, to develop those habits, to develop good behaviors, to create smaller, more frequently achievable goals. Okay, so that last one, again, really important note. Now, like I mentioned, guys, if you do need any assistance with any of the topics that I've covered, Fairfield Leisure Centres has a wide variety of personal trainers that can help you target mental health issues, or even create an exercise and eating routine that can help, cater towards your goals and help get you one step closer towards those goals as well. Okay, so that will just about wrap it up. Okay, thank you everyone who has stuck through to the end here. Like I mentioned, Johnny and Trevor would have been answering a bunch of questions, hopefully. And if you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer anything as best as I can.